Hey everybody, welcome to The Early Edge, a mentorship podcast for next generation leaders where we share insights we wish we had learned earlier in our careers.
We want to equip you to learn more, grow faster, and thrive in both your work and personal life. I'm Jay.
And I'm Jeff. Let's get into today's episode. Jay, do you remember the day when we had to get directions by opening up a paper map?
You would buy maybe a county map or maybe a state map, or if you were super bougie, you'd have a AAA full 50 states, United States map.
That was special. We couldn't afford that one. I remember being with my parents on trips in the car, and we'd hit the state line, and we had to stop to get a map.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
So, why is this relevant? Why are we talking about this? Because a lot of times we'd be driving, we didn't have a map, and we were lost, yet we were so prideful we would not stop and ask for help.
It is a gender stereotype that I'm going to say is 100% true.
Now, all of our listeners here are like, what are you guys talking about? Because don't you just plug it in your phone? And yes, we do now have Google Maps and Apple Maps, and it makes life so much easier so you don't have to stop and ask, usually.
Yeah, and I get a little heat in my household because I will use the map feature, even locally, and it does diminish the sense of adventure and who knows what we'll find when we turn the corner. I just like to know if there's going to be a backup on I-71 and that I can avoid. But it does eliminate the opportunity to discover new things and get lost in a fun way and see stuff. So, yeah.
So good. Well, welcome to everybody to the Early Edge Mentorship Podcast. If you're newly joining us, this podcast is meant for those earlier in their career, things that we wish we had known decades ago, and we want to share some stories and experience that we think will be relevant to you in your personal work life. So welcome. This episode is all about asking for help.
When we're lost or we have a challenge, we can try to muscle up on our own and not admit that we are lost or not admit that we don't know which way we're going because of many certain human flaws that we all have. But we probably have an opportunity to get better and grow if we're willing to just ask for a little help. Great topic idea.
So what are some of the situations where people don't ask for help?
The simple common ones are in the workplace. I have a work challenge either with a relationship or a process or a system, and I'm just unsure if I'm allowed to or how it'll look if I ask for help. Also, relationships at home.
Sure.
Situations at home. You and I are both proud owners of homes that could use a little help now and then because of their age. And do we try to muscle up and do it ourselves? Do we admit to our spouses and our family members who are around that we're not quite sure how to solve that thing? Could be that. It could be financial. Those can be more serious. It could be health and wellness. I'm not fit the way I'd like to be, or I have this nagging injury. I'm not sure what to do about that. And then, there's some real serious stuff, addiction and mental health and all kinds. It runs the spectrum of seriousness.
Part of what we want to talk about today is whether you should be asking for help in areas of your life, whether it's on the simple spectrum or the serious spectrum, like you just mentioned. It's so important to understand and identify when you should be asking for help and you're not.
What are some reasons why someone wouldn't ask for help? It's sort of on its surface, I look at it and say, gosh, there's a situation where I'm not quite sure or it's a little challenging. Why wouldn't people ask for help? Yet, it's a very common challenge.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about that a little bit. Why don't people ask for help? You want me to throw one out?
Sure.
I think, we probably can list a few things here of why we think what kept us from asking for help over the years. But one is, if you don't really have a very good, clear picture of a future state of you or of the role or of the relationship or whatever it may be, it's really hard to be intentional and know when there's a big enough gap. Hey, I'm not getting where I want to go. Yeah. So I need to stop and ask for help. Well, if you don't have a picture of where you're going, it's kind of hard to know when to stop and ask.
Yeah, and I will add one more and then connect a story to both of those. The next one that I think is pretty common, and I've certainly struggled with it, is pride or imposter syndrome. I'm supposed to know this. Or if they know I don't know this, what will they think of me? This takes me back to the second company I was running, and I was not an intentional leader. It was a bit of start it and get it going and survive, but then it kind of was running and doing okay. But I never really had a long-term vision for the company or really myself or my life. So I didn't have the future state in mind. So when things got tough, I didn't understand the delta between what I was experiencing and what the future could be. And then you layer on, and I don't really want people to know I don't know it. I'm supposed to know it. Oh, I'm the boss, or heaven forbid I would go home and share with my wife, this isn't going as well as I want. That's a scary prospect. So I carried the weight of that alone for a long time, and it had consequences.
I don't know if pride is the same as proving, but I think either a slice of pride or maybe a little bit different than pride is, well, I want to prove to someone that I can be self-sufficient and figure this out and do it on my own. And there's nothing wrong with that mindset until it gets you into trouble.
Yes. I think it's connected, but I do think it's a little bit different.
Another one that comes to mind for me is they don't know what they don't know. So I don't have any or enough knowledge on this topic.
Yeah.
So I can't really think about what the potential consequences are or downstream impact of, or, well, I don't even know the questions to ask. So how can I go ask for help? Because I just don't know enough. And I think that's probably, I don't know, let's see if you agree with this. This is less true in a role that you've been hired into early in your career. This may be more indicative of things early in life in your personal situation. Financial, health, wellness.
Own a home for the first time.
Yeah. How do you go about that? How is this a good deal or a bad deal?
Yeah. If I've never operated in this environment or this context, or I have never had mentors or parents or bosses who demonstrated operating in this environment, first job, living in a city for the first time, having a home for the first time, being a parent for the first time, having savings or debt for the first time, owning a car or having a credit card. If I've never navigated that, I may not have any context to know that it's not going well or that it could be better or different. It's a great point. How does someone in that situation get a trigger to say, this isn't going the way I'd like it to?
It's probably hard to define a single trigger, but I think in my mind, it's if I don't have any knowledge about this and it's a significant part of work life or personal life, I should always ask for help. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're going to ask for a weekly 2-hour counseling session or what have you. Maybe that's right in some cases, but maybe I just need, hey, I'm getting ready to do this. Give me a little bit of input. Yeah,
that's a great one. I think it doesn't have to necessarily feel like a bad status. It doesn't have to be a bad situation. Yeah. It just can be, you know what? I'm not too knowledgeable in this. I think I'm going to look for someone just to bounce this off of. I'm going to buy this house, or I've got a repair bill for my car. Does this seem reasonable?
And I love two things you said there. One, you mentioned debt, because hey, early in life, how much debt is too much debt? Is this the right kind of debt? Is any debt okay? And who you go ask for help, are they invested in you to give you the right answer or the right advice?
Yeah, that's a good call. So you do need to consider surrounding yourself with the folks who, one, you think have some relevant experience, two, have your best interest in mind. That's a good one.
If someone's buying a house and they're asking one of the agents involved, is this too much debt? Probably not the right person to go to.
That's a very good question. When you talk about debt too, I had a little PTSD on this one. I got my first job out of college and was living in an apartment with one of my college roommates who had just started his first job. And we were college kids on college budgets. So the first apartment we got was, not that expensive, and it wasn't exactly in the most convenient part of town. It was a 2-bedroom, and both of us had the cars we had during college. So I might have had a small little loan on mine. So my expenses were pretty low. And with this job, I was starting to make money that was, decent. It wasn't crazy, but I started to save a little money. And this was, I was living below my means, and it was awesome. And about a year into it, I'm like, okay, now I'm ready for my first apartment. I'm going to go buy some furniture, and now I'm qualified for that credit card. And before you know it, I'm sitting on $5,000 in debt, which was about 30% of my salary. And
you're old.
Lost. I am old. And I didn't know what to do. It just was easy to fall into that trap. I certainly didn't ask people for help or guidance, and I had to dig out from that over, another year or two.
Yeah, and sometimes the right mechanisms or processes or thinking is modeled for us. But even sometimes when it's modeled for us, we don't really understand the impact of the consequence of getting into it. And then we get into it, and then it's I won't say it's too late, right? You can always dig out and figure it out. But why dig out if you don't have to?
Yeah, that's such a good thing for our audience to ponder. And this takes some intentionality. If I don't have the life experience around this thing, who can I ask? And just maybe even do a pulse check. Hey, it's 2026, January 1st. I'm going to go get with somebody who's a more experienced person, a mentor or a parent or somebody, and just say, here are the different areas of my life that I have going on right now. And can I just do a pulse check? Am I in good shape? Is this where this should go? Here's let's use here's the amount of debt I have or don't have. I'm renting or I'm going to buy. I have a car. I'm here. My health situation's this. I think that's a nice pulse check, especially if the audience doesn't have any experience in this one area. Unless it's a problem, you don't know to ask about it. Mm. And this goes to another reason why people don't ask for help is passivity. And maybe that passivity and being unintentional or not intentional are similar or related. That was how I operated early in my life and career, is one day at a time, make it good today, not thinking of what future state could be. And that went from being a single guy working for a company to a married guy with kids running a company. I didn't get more intentional. The stakes got higher. And there were some costs. Abby and I dealt with consequences of that for a few years. It was hard. I wish I had the courage and intentionality to get guidance before those things got more serious.
Sure.
All right. So why should we ask for help? What's the benefit of asking for help?
Well, one is you'll be better. You will be better. The people around you will be better, whether those are peers, workers, team members, spouse, family members, brothers, sisters, whatever. Chances are the whole perspective and picture will be better.
Yeah. And when you go through a process like this, if you have a current state situation, let's call it at work, and it's the job's okay, but you don't love it, the boss is okay, but you don't love it, or the role is okay, but you don't love it, and you decide to ask for help, your boss says, hey, yeah, I know you're doing this now, but you'd rather do that. You have some training or growth or practice to invest in, and you'll get there. If you go through that process and a year later you're in a job you love, you're more successful, things are going better for you, you can take that experience and then pass it on and help other people. This is one of the greatest gifts that I am thankful for in digging out of some of these early life challenges is I get to use that experience to help clients and friends and family. And I feel like it's a responsibility. It's a blessing to get to do that. Mm-hmm. You don't have that knowledge unless you've been through it. So yes, you can benefit yourself by making a certain circumstance or situation better. And then you get the gift of helping others.
The value of adversity comes to mind.
Yes.
And in the moment, none of us think the adversity is fun or helpful or, sometimes, gosh, I don't think I'm going to get out of this adversity. But you do, and then you realize what you learned. I think that's the second thing for me is you learn so much by asking for help and going through it with someone, whatever with someone looks like.
Yeah.
You learn, and you're better off for it.
You mentioned a little framework that Andy Stanley shares. Will you talk about that? I think that's a great mindset when it talks about help.
Sure. Years ago, Andy Stanley is a prominent pastor and leader. He has a number of leadership books, and he's a pastor of a very large church in Atlanta. And I just remember him saying, when you're thinking about things and where you might need help, his comment was, in light of my past experiences, my current situation, and my future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing to do? So past experiences, where have I been? What's the context? Have I been in this trouble before, or have I been pondering something? I don't want to say it's all trouble, but my past experiences, my current situation, here's where I am. And then future hopes and dreams, here's where I'm trying to go. Do I have a picture of the future?
Yeah.
What's the wise thing to do? And I think that prompts me to say, is this something I should get some input on? Should I get some advice? Should I ask for help?
I love that simple framework. It requires some intentionality. So past experiences, success or not, good or bad, where am I today? And then I have to have a vision for the future, or the whole exercise doesn't work. And this requires intentionality. Do you have any stories of asking for help where it was a good outcome, or you wish you had or should have?
One of the stories that comes to mind for me is a story where it wasn't so much, it was a bit of asking for help in a moment. And this is a work example. So let me set this up. I'll try and make this quick. I was leading a business unit for a company, and over the course of 4 or 5 years, I had grown this, the revenue of this business unit by 4x. So a lot of growth, a lot of success. And to grow it further, I said, hey, we need to do something a little differently here. I need these 2 individuals to report directly to me so they feel like a part of the team, and we can orchestrate and evaluate and iterate faster and better. And so they agreed to do that, and 6 months goes by, and we hit a patch. I'd love to say, hey, it was the market. The market was tough, but we hit a patch where over a 6-month period, we had slower growth, but much slower. And we had some team turnover. And so one of the executive leaders scheduled a meeting with me and basically said, hey, we're going back the way it was before. We're pulling those 2 team members. And the words were, your experiment failed. And it was so just demeaning the way it was said. And I was clearly frustrated and everything. Went home, and that night, literally, I'm on LinkedIn, and I see a post from a recruiter for what looked exactly like my role. It was written in my company's, tone. Yeah. And it was, the person that posted, the recruiter that posted it, third-party recruiter, had connections to some of the people in the company. And I'm like, I can't believe this. So after what happened that day, I went and I kind of asked for help. I shared with Beth, my wife, and said,
by the way, was that easy to do?
No, it was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life. Maybe top 10, but
well done. Good for you.
Because here it is, I've worked so hard over the years and poured so much into this, grown it. And someone basically said, you failed. Yeah. Now, I took it a little bit out of context.
Sure.
But then when I hear that, and I see this post for what looked like my replacement. Yeah. And I shared it with Beth, and it's only the few times in my career, few times in life where I lost it. It's kind of weird to say, but I was uncontrollably crying. I couldn't, snot coming out of the nose, tears, everything. Crying, I mean, it was bad because I felt like I was totally out of control. Yeah. And yet I knew it was the right thing to do to share and open up and ask for a little bit of help. And help wasn't like, hey, how do I solve this? Help was like, I just need I need some confidence or some peace and some.
And Jeff, that's a piece of transparency and vulnerability our audience needs to hear. You got a couple middle-aged dudes with experience who are doing a podcast. I just want to let you know that throughout our careers, we have gotten to points of snot bubble crying with buddies, with our spouses. It's pressure relief. It's transparency. It's living authentically. It's genuine, real life. And there are some terrible consequences of pretending that isn't true with you. I lived it in company number 3. My third company was a challenging situation, and the company ended up failing. And I tried for a couple of years to just pretend it was okay, and I didn't share with people how it was going. And There were health consequences, mental health consequences, financial consequences. And when I finally just let it out and acknowledged that this was the reality, the peace and the freedom that came from that, the freedom from not having to pretend was immense. And then the amazing support of my family, my wife, my friends, mentors, and peers was a gift to get to experience that I didn't allow because I was afraid to be vulnerable and truthful. So way to go. I'm glad you told that story. Our listeners need to hear it.
Do you remember the moment in your mind where you chose to start and share that and ask? Absolutely. You probably do.
Absolutely.
Because it's getting that first word out to the person you're seeking help from.
Yes.
Just get the first word out. The rest will happen.
That's so good. That is so right. Get the first word out.
Get the first word out because the rest will come. It's the first word that is so hard. And there's one or two other moments in life that maybe I'll share at some point later where it was so hard to get the first word out.
Yeah.
But, then it just happens and you feel so much relief. And I think what I'd say is all these examples of asking for help, chances are what any of us or our listeners are thinking about going through situations where they should be asking for help, none of them are unique.
It's such a good point. You're not alone.
Now, you're unique and your situation's a little unique, but what you're going through, I don't care if it's personal, work, financial, health, wellness, whatever it is, there are people that will listen and there are people that will help.
Yes. I tell clients, you're special, but what you're dealing with is not special.
Yeah.
It's not unusual. And you're so right, Jeff. And that does help take the fear down of speaking up. And, it doesn't have to be a major financial or health challenge and a big monumental thing. It can be a small thing. I don't know how to find this file. I should know where this file is stored, or I should know how to answer this customer's question. I can't. But those, if you keep hiding them, will build.
So true. I think of maybe a work, could be a personal example, but where it's better to ask for help from somebody, even if it's a superior, and they think for a moment, wow, they really should have known the answer, than to not ask for help and let it go by and build into something that's much bigger that puts more pressure on you and has bigger consequences.
Yeah. Well, as we lead into key takeaways, why don't we talk about mindset or approaches when you ask for help? How should you go about doing it? And disclaimer here, if you're in a situation that is way over your head, it's challenging, and you have no idea about it, just ask. Don't wait.
Yeah.
What I'm about to say is if you have some idea and it's not dire and it's not intense, there are some things you can do that will make your growth process go better and will help you in the workplace environment. It will help you in the workplace setting to stand out as a high potential. So, disclaimer, if it's a big deal, ask for help. Don't worry about this. The rest of this situation, one is, don't go to your boss and say, boss, here's a problem, and I'm going to put it in your lap. If you go to your boss and say, I have a challenge or a thing, think about what possible solutions there might be. Come with ideas. At least come with the right context of the problem, with the background information. Let's call it a customer issue. Customer A called and there's an issue and I'm not sure what to do. Here's the background. Here's the information. And I'm thinking either this or that. Probably that. What do you think, boss?
Mm-hmm. So true. So good. And I'd say in addition to that, especially on the personal side, if you are in a situation where you need help, don't feel like you have to have potential solutions.
Yes.
Now, does it help? Absolutely. If you've done a little homework, but sometimes we get into situations that are troubling and could be really dire, and we should just throw our hands up and ask for help.
Yeah. Don't wait.
One thing that we do now that we couldn't have done 30 years ago is go to Google, and something that we can do now that we couldn't do about 5 years ago is go to ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini, something like that. Those are fine places to start. I'd say whether it's personal or business, there's nothing wrong with going and seeing what one of those tools has to say. But you got to be careful because especially in personal situations, it doesn't have any context. Yeah. It doesn't know you. You can even write 100-word prompt, but it still just doesn't have an understanding of you, your situation, your life, your past experience, your future hopes and dreams. So use it, but don't use it in the wrong case.
And that's
scenarios.
great. I think it's a great data point. And you may need help in implementing or executing whatever you find out or think you should do, because the idea of how to solve something is one thing. The actual execution would probably go better if you had someone to bounce this off of in the process. I think also you have to have a mindset of, I'm going to be part of this solution. I'm demonstrating the willingness and the energy to be involved in this. I'm not going to just throw this challenge or this problem on someone's lap and then say, fix it for me. I am going to raise it and share it and then say, I'm ready to rock and roll.
And I'm open to the input, because sometimes depending on what you're asking about could be tough, and you may not like what guidance and advice you get told.
I was just working with a senior leader this week who was asking for advice on a challenge inside the company. And what I loved about his approach is he started with, how can I be better? What do I own in this process? It was all first, this is a challenge, and I want to approach it first from, here's what I am doing, and I want to see how I can be contributing to this positively. And it wasn't just all him, but he led with that, which is a great sign of humility and desire for personal growth. So it was action orientation.
So many of these examples have been individual focused, personal work, whatever, but you and I do business transformation, and it's really no different that where the business, someone, either a CEO or a leader or a team of leaders say, we need help.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great call. It takes a humility and ownership or leadership collectively to acknowledge we don't have all the answers.
Right. All these things apply to a collective group of executives that have pride and ego and all these other things. And wow, shouldn't we be able to solve this? We hired all these great people, but sometimes transformation of a business or transformation of a personal situation is really not that different.
That's a great link. All right. What about
key takeaways?
Key takeaways, yeah.
Maybe the first one is identify what keeps you from asking for help. Think about that.
Know yourself. Yep.
Yeah. Do I ask for help? If I don't ever ask for help, or I don't often ask for help, why?
Yeah. I think your nugget about knowing the desired future state, you have to have a vision or an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. I want to be a homeowner. I want to be a VP of whatever. I want to be a great husband, wife, father, mother. I have a vision for that. I want to have savings and retirement. I want to be physically fit. Whatever it is, you must have an idea of what you're shooting for, so you can then, one, make decisions to get there. Two, you can evaluate, hey, today I'm pretty far from that. I should probably ask for some help.
Think about the criteria in your mind that should prompt you or trigger you to ask for help. How significant is it? Who's involved? Who would be impacted if it doesn't work out?
Ooh, or consequences is a great, good call.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of this not working out?
Yeah.
And maybe the last one is start to think about who in your world are the safe and trusted hands for different topics and situations. I've been blessed by some amazing mentors. Once I realized that things were not going the way they ought to be going, I dove into some relationships with some folks in business that I felt had it figured out. And by the way, they admitted they didn't, but they'd done it well. They'd done it before. They were a little older than me. And then I have a men's small group Bible study group that are, doing life with other people is essential, necessary. You can't do it alone. And so I could take personal, marriage, parenting, business things to this gang, and it's a safe and trusted space. And to your point earlier, they all had their own versions of it. Mm-hmm. None of us were alone. No one had it going perfectly. And it's really a freeing environment to just go and lay your stuff on the table and be able to talk about it.
Yes. Very important. Well, I think that's our early edge for the week.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to The Early Edge, a mentorship podcast for next generation leaders. If you have feedback or would like to submit questions or a topic idea, email us at earlyedge@reddogadvisors.com
or earlyedge@altaimpact.com.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please follow, subscribe, rate, and review. See you next time.